We're at the Muleshoe State Bank and talking with the new president of the Muleshoe State Bank, Jay Messenger. Now, Jay, Robert left. He was the president of the Muleshoe State Bank preceding you, and he is now in retirement in Lubbock, I understand.
That's right, Megan. I believe that his grandchildren are keeping him very busy.
I understand that some of them live right there on the street he lives on.
I think so. I think that he many times will look up and have a grandchild standing at his doorway.
Well, that's a grandparent heaven, I would say, wouldn't you?
Yes, I would.
Well, thinking of grandchildren, let's just start with your grandchildren. How many do you have now?
I've got 3 in my collection, and one is now living up in Sunray, and 2 are living in Lubbock.
And now you have 2 daughters who provided those 3 lovely grandchildren, and the oldest grandchild is Mallory, right?
The oldest grandchild is Mallory, who you know very well because she loves you when you help her at the church with Bible school last summer.
And now, how old is Mallory now?
Mallory's 6.
6 years old, and she lives with her parents where?
In Lubbock.
And her little brother is who?
Her little brother is Jacob.
And he's how old?
Jacob's 3.
Now, nobody would start an interview with the new president of the bank talking about grandchildren except me, but they're important, aren't they, Jay?
Well, that's a lot more important than whether or not I'm working at this bank.
I understand. And so then Isla is the baby.
Isla is 6 months old and blowing and going, and she is the daughter of Jeff and Suzanne King. Suzanne's our youngest daughter, and Jeff is the son of Tommy and Jan King. And Jeff is...
They live in Lubbock now.
No, actually, they've moved to Sunray. Jeff is known for his bright red hair. And Isla got it.
She's a doll. Well, all 3 of them are precious. Now, so Tommy and Jan have moved to Sunray?
No, Tommy and Jan are in Lubbock, but Jeff and Suzanne,
okay.
My daughter and son-in-law, are now up in Sunray.
I got it right. Okay. And they moved from Kansas, right?
That's true.
So that's a lot closer.
We were very happy with that.
I bet you were. I understand that. And the other family lives in Abilene, so you're sort of in the middle.
We're in the middle. We're close now.
And your wife, Sally, works where?
Well, Sally has been at Watson Junior High since 1990.
Well, speaking of since 1990, what year did you and Sally come to Muleshoe?
That was the year, 1990. I actually did some consulting work with this bank starting in 1981. And so I knew a lot of the people here going back that far, but I didn't know the people in the community very well until 90 when Sally and I actually moved here and made it our home.
And so now, where were you reared, Jay?
Well, we don't say it publicly, but I am. Sally and I are both from Freona. When I was born, I lived a block from Sally.
Is that right? So when did you become engaged?
Well, when I was 14, I figured out that she had a nice red car, and so we started dating then. We were engaged when I was 17, and I turned 57 last week.
So you've known Sally all your life?
All my life, that's true.
And did you both go to college together?
Yes, we did. She graduated from Texas Tech. I went 2 years at Texas Tech and graduated from WT, where I moved to start my certified public accountant career in Amarillo with my dad.
And so when you moved to Muleshoe, where were you living and what were you doing?
I was the controller for the banking corporation. First State Bank Abilene was a banking group that group had ended up buying Muleshoe State Bank along with 10 other banks, and I had moved to Abilene, and I was their controller working with all of the rural banks as an assistant to the presidents of all those banks.
And how long were you in Abilene?
About 5 years.
And what did you do previous to that?
Prior to that, I was in Littlefield at Security State Bank Littlefield, which was in the early 80s, was owned by the same people that owned this bank. And That's where I went to work when I was 24 years old, and worked with Ken Burgess, who was the brother of Jim Burgess that used to live in Muleshoe.
Sure. And so you've been in Littlefield and Freona. I don't think this is a very good interview.
Well,
but you've been in Muleshoe almost as long as Freona.
I've actually lived in Muleshoe longer. I lived in.
That's your salvation.
Yes, we consider ourselves mules and mule fans, and there is no doubt about that.
And both of your daughters graduate from Muleshoe High School.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So that makes you bona fide.
That is correct.
Now, what are your hopes and dreams for the Muleshoe State Bank as the new president?
Well, Megan, I think the neatest thing about this bank is that it's been here since 1931. It's a part of this community, and we've really been blessed. And we've grown a lot the last few years, and as you look outside, you see that we have decided it's time to expand this building, and we were kind of busting at our seams and had been for a long time. And so my dream and what I want to do is I want to serve this community. I come from my father was always in business, and he was always involved in the community. He was on the Chamber of Commerce. He was on the Water District Board. He was in Lions Club. He did everything. And I just come from the background of if you're not involved in the community, then you're not a part of the community. And I just believe that as a bank, we have that same obligation. Mm-hmm.
Now, your parents, are they alive still?
No, they both deceased.
And who were they?
That was Steve and Narcia Messenger. Steve grew up north of Freona at a little place called Bootleg, and actually, Megan, it wasn't called Bootleg, it was called Messenger.
Oh, really?
But it was close to Bootleg, and a lot of people still know where Bootleg is. And there was a Messenger school and a Messenger Community Center, and Dad's family settled there in 1908, I believe.
They were real pioneers then. And, of course, your mother, Narcia Messenger, lived here the last years of her life.
Yes, she did, and she loved to listen to you. But she moved here because her mother was in the nursing home, and then after her mother passed away, we had, for some time, had prayed that after my grandmother passed away that we would be able to either be where my mother was or she could move to where we were. And then just as a matter of coincidence, in December of '89, my grandmother passed away. And at the same time, a young man named Troy Stegemeller, who had been here at the bank, decided he was going to move to a new opportunity for him. And this position opened up, and it all happened within the same week.
Isn't that something? Well, now, your mother did beautiful sun catchers. They were just, she was professional.
Yes, she was a tomboy. She learned to weld when she was in her 60s. She did stained glass. She liked cars. She and Dad had always been around sports cars, and if you know me, you know that I still have a lot of that interest, and that's where I got it. I got as much of that from my mother as my dad. But she did stained glass, and in fact, when she passed away, she had been working closely with Curtis Shelburne as he was learning to do stained glass. And we wound up donating to his projects a lot of her glass, and to this day he still makes things out of some of the glass that was my mom's. And so when I see those crosses that he periodically gives as gifts to people, every time I see one I think of my mother.
Well, sure you do. And she was the sister of Bob Finney.
That is correct. She is the older sister, and we were talking about my granddaughter being a redhead. My mother was a bright redhead, too.
Well, now, what about Sally's family?
Sally's family is from Freona. Many people will have heard of the Kendrick Oil Company. Sally's dad was Pudge Kendrick. And Sally's mother was Deke Kendrick. Neither one of them liked their first names, so they went with nicknames, and so they were known as Deke and Pudge to even their children. And Pudge passed away a couple of years ago at the age of 91, a great man, like a second father to me. And Deke still lives in Freona in the house they built in 1953 or 4. bought and paid for on the GI Bill, and still have that same home today. And she lives by herself and is doing quite well. Still plays in the bell choir at the Freona Methodist Church.
How wonderful. Now tell us about some of the expansion here. You mentioned it earlier, and would you show it to us?
I'd be glad to.
Okay.
We've done several things here. The biggest thing we've done, of course, besides just a facelift of carpet and lighting and wallpaper and cleaning up a lot of things, is we've added the 6-lane drive-through assembly out in the parking lot. And of course, we tore down the old Harvey Bass building. And we all hated to see it go, but we were glad to see it go. That's kind of what we heard throughout the community. Oh, what the great memories of the Harvey Bass building and what Harvey did for this community. But of course, the building had kind of become an eyesore, and it was time for it to go. And
It's been vacant so long.
it had been vacant for a long time, and we had owned it for a long time. And we have received endless compliments for what we have done to clean up this block, and that makes us feel good. And I kind of like to say that we feel like the community had banked on us. So this expansion and spending this money back in this community is it's a kind of our way of saying we're banking on you.
Well, let's go look at those lanes. How many now are there?
We've got 6 lanes now.
6 lanes. Let's start inside, and you show us how the lanes come into the bank, and then we'll go outside. Okay.
Okay, that sounds good.
We're at the Muleshoe State Bank, and here you can see the newly remodeled lobby, so open and inviting at the crossroads here in Muleshoe. Now, Jay, where are we?
Well, we're in the lobby area right behind where the tellers are, and there used to be a wall here. It's gone. And this counter we're looking at is the new counter where all of our drive-in lane equipment comes up through the center of this table. And if you come in and make a deposit and pass the tube in, it will come up through the middle of this table, and our tellers will be able to talk to you using a video system where they see you and you see them, and you can talk to them, and they can wait on any lane at any one time.
Now, where did the tubes come in?
They come up through the basement and through the floor. And
they're into the center.
into the center of this table here, you see these little black plastic plates, and then when a tube comes in there, it just rises up out of the center of the table. It's magic.
We're at the back of the Muleshoe State Bank where the 6 lanes of drive-up are located. And will you have ATM service back here?
Yes, Maggie, and one of the exciting things with this remodel is we're going to move the ATM back here to the drive-thru, and people will now be able to use the ATM from the safety of their own car.
Now we're in the front of the Muleshoe State Bank at the corner of U.S. Highway 84 and 214 and U.S. 70 are the crossroads right here in Muleshoe. And at the Muleshoe State Bank, we've been talking with the new president, Jay Messenger. And Jay, thank you for your wonderful tour.
Well, we love it, and I just thought when you mentioned the crossroads, I thought of the Mule Train News and talking about the crossroads here in Muleshoe. But yes, we're real excited. We're excited for Muleshoe, and we're excited for the bank, and it's been kind of fun. It's been a little hectic. Been a little dirty, but we've got the new parking lot, and we've got
and the new pavement here is so nice,
right
all around the bank. And now, what about the sidewalks?
Well, we poured all new sidewalks around the building, and we've got our fingers crossed. But they do have a de-icing system built into them. And if it works right, then I won't be running a snow shovel next winter.
Wonderful. And we hope we get some snow, don't
We want it. We want to have that problem.
And we'll certainly take the rain too and the sunshine. And the sun is certainly shining right now here on Muleshoe.